What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Big Gold Belt review here with Cam and Damian G. We got to actually see an early preview of Merry Little Batman by DC Animation, and I was actually surprised about it. It was very, very different. Damian, I think you've got a better pick. You go first. I'm gonna let you go first on this one because it was
something. It was something. That was the nicest thing I could say at first in our group chat after watching this. Right. The second thing I'm going to say is, as I said with Terrell on our review earlier this week, I am not the target audience for Merry Little Batman because within the first 5 minutes, I hated it. I hated everything about it. I hated the animation style. I didn't like Damian's portrayal. It was just... Damian was more insufferable, ironically, coming from a guy named Damian, was more insufferable in this iteration than at any other time he's been portrayed as the big baby bat, as we've liked to, hear him called. I tried to find something. It didn't even really have the Christmas spirit either. It's like Merry Little Batman, but it's not really talking about the holidays. And I just thought of something. You mentioned SpongeBob. This gave you SpongeBob. This gave me Ren and Stimpy vibes while I was watching this.
I can honestly see that. And another one that came to my mind was Chowder. It reminded me of Chowder. Even the animation in it seemed like I was watching Chowder. And I feel like the voice actors did such a great job, honestly.
They tried, man.
I mean, Luke Wilson killed the role of Batman. I think he did a great job. I kind of was disappointed in what happened with Alfred, to be honest with you. And I think we talked about that as like a lot of the characters were in a different state than we're used to seeing them portrayed in, an animation or any type of show for these. We look at them as like these superior characters that don't really age, but with Alfred, you could really see the Asian in him. He was just a guy that was just sitting there ready to make hot chocolate. That was like, we know Alfred is like this, the weapons guy, Batman's the
guy in the chair.
Guy in the chair, exactly. And this version of Alfred was the guy making cocoa, so like it's tough. So I don't know. So with all the villains that we actually get to see in this show, how did you feel about their characterization in here as far as the whole entire plot of the show?
The whole plot was just... Okay, what I'm going to say about the villains was, if you are old enough to remember the 1960s Batman with Adam West doing the Bat-Tusi, this was the villain portrayal of those type of villains. It was a Silver Age motif of old Penguin, old Joker, old Poison Ivy, who I even said, I was like, oh, they made her into a golden girl. Call her Blanche.
Blanche. That was
Blanche Devereaux. And then you got Bane, who's still on Venom, but he looks like he's 60. And then the Joker shows up, and I swear to God, I thought it was Jason Schwartzman. I told y'all that. And I hate Jason Schwartzman. That's why I said it, because he sounded like Jason Schwartzman. I was like, what in the Scott Pilgrim is this? And not in a good way.
Yeah.
So the villain portrayal, very Silver Agey, very kooky and zany, and not what we're used to seeing in the Batman universe, except when Adam West was in charge of manning the cowl. Yeah, and let's backtrack for the audience too. Like, the whole premise of this, Batman's in what? 10% of this movie, 15% tops?
If that, honestly, yeah.
And Terrell and I mentioned in the previous review of Justice League Cross Ruby, Batman was shelved. They used that early plot to put Batman on the shelf. This is exactly what they did. I know it's about Damian trying to be Batman or wanting to be Batman, but man, they shelved Batman in the first 10 minutes, and they made him into an even more cartoon character than Batman could possibly be. If you want to think the brawny guy, but with like a juvenile sense of humor, or like Diedrich Baker voicing him for Brave and the Bold, that was Luke Wilson's performance.
Yeah.
You're not Mobius, bro. You're not your brother. Okay.
Yeah. I would say I think one of the highlights of it for me was actually the voice acting for the most part, because their voices were so different than their usual, characterizations in different shows. Like you said, Luke Wilson is Bruce Wayne, James Cromwell is Alfred Pennyworth. I would have never guessed that was James Cromwell in there at all. And then of course David Hornsby as the Joker. Those are some of my main highlighted ones, but also Jonas Kibriba. He's actually the first African American to actually play a Wayne or Damian Wayne as a character. So that was very exciting to see. And even in the shading of the character, he seemed a little browner than Bruce, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, and I think that's because I guess the version of Talia that they did was probably like a little darker tone, I guess you could say, for the most part. Right. So yeah, I thought overall, I think it was a good time. I think if I was maybe with my kids, it seemed more kids friendly for the most part.
Right.
I thought, or what I'm used to in DC animation is a little bit darker and a little bit more deeper into darker tones as far as like symbolism, and it also being a little bit more of a background meaning to everything. This was just a fun time, I think, for the most part. And they were just looking to put out something that, kids could love, that also kind of related to the holiday season. It kind of reminded me of, honestly, the 1989 version, that whole parade type scene.
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, oh man, is that this, or is this something different? Because if you think about the manor as well, it was kind of like the same schematics as the 1980 version of Batman with Michael Keaton. But I mean, overall, I still think I actually liked it. I mean, it was pretty good for the most part. Would you say any parts that really stood out to you though? Like
that Damian almost ruined Christmas, and that was the villain's plan all along, was to allow Damian to ruin Christmas.
And I'm like, how did they think of that as a plan? First off, I mean, all right, I think we talked about this before, right? We said, okay, this is starting out like Home Alone, right? Because it's like, okay, Kevin got left at home in the mansion, and two robbers are coming in, and then he's playing his little tricks and gags on them and stuff, and then it completely flips and he turns into a miniature Dark Knight at this point. So I think it was just kind of like you said, while we weren't probably the main target audience for this type of film, but I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there that are really gonna love it, just because it is pretty family friendly for the most part. It definitely brought together lighter tones with all the characters, for the most part. So
for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I think it was a really good. Well,
the film itself, we know it's about Damian, like we just said, right?
Right.
The way they did a lot of the characters you and I grew up with, from let's say Batman the Animated Series. This ain't it. This was a 180-degree turn, and I think that's what jarred you and I, and probably other adults our age, watching this movie and thinking, "Where's the Dark Knight? Where's the brooding?" They cleaned up Gotham. There was no crime.
That is true.
Yeah, that was crimeless for 90 days.
Right.
So for me to watch that part, it's like, okay, this is an Elseworlds, universe where Gotham's crime got cleaned up, and apparently it was about 90 days. There was no crime in Gotham. And that's when Batman felt like he could take some time and be a dad, which I thought was cool. Okay, good holiday message. Let me not work so much. Let me be there for my son. And what was that movie with Damian and Clark and his son, where was it John Kent, where he was blaming Clark for working too hard, and then he admits, like, hey, I'm Superman, so this is my job, and all of a sudden I was forgiven. So it's like Damian knows going into it his dad's Batman, and he's just like, I just want to be like my dad. Like a lot of kids want to be like the parent they look up to. And just watching him, he's a kid. He's 8 years old. How else would you expect an 8-year-old kid to act in these situations? No matter how many backflips, no matter how many martial arts trainings he did with the League of Assassins, potentially, Damian was still a kid, and he was portrayed as such. Now, what this does for me as a bigger picture this is being spawned off into a series I was reading earlier today. So these characters are going to be part of like the Bat Family cartoon that's going to drop on Prime at some point. I think in 2024, 2025.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yes.
So, okay, I see where you're going with this, but this is where you let off with. You let off with this much cheese. Like not even Teen Titans Go poop the bed this quickly out of the gate. So that's just my, my feelings on it. If there was something redeemable, it would be the message to children that, that you can be what you aspire to be. And it's not the toys that make you a hero. It's not the superpower, because he keeps mentioning that, I want to be a superhero like my dad. And that's when I said in our chat, I said, but Bruce's superpower is money. He doesn't have any superpowers either.
Being rich.
Being rich is a superpower.
Yeah.
But the message it gives is that, okay, I can be like this person I admire just by what Alfred say, focus, discipline, commitment, all that David Goggins, motivational speak that they had my man Alfred hit him with. But that was probably the only redeeming factor. I will agree with you. One of the things I didn't like was how they did Alfred dirty. They did him dirty, really dirty, like a great grandfather that can barely do anything. He's like just hunched over, struggling.
Yeah, he's hunched on his back.
He was hunched over, that's not Alfred. But we also saw the Penguin in a electric wheelchair
cart, right?
Yeah. So
it's crazy because when you say that about his hunch, it reminds me of the first Lara Croft game, and that little butler that would follow you everywhere you go, and you try to lock him in the freezer. That's what this was just now, though. And I think about like the moral of the story when it goes back to it, and for a lot of kids that don't know the full backstory of Batman and his 3 other sons that he had before this, I'm like, where are they? Like, what? So you just got one son now. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be upset at the holiday season, Dad. I mean, just to sum it up and kind of wrap this one up, but I thought it was a good time, and I think for a family film, I think it's very enjoyable. Voice acting was spot on. Some of the scenes were throwing me off for the most part, but I think everybody at home is definitely gonna like this one for sure, though. What do you think about it, Damian?
I think the kiddos are gonna love it. They will jump and yell and probably sell a lot of merch to these kids, with the little Batman. Apparently this is scheduled for release on December 8th of 2023, Amazon Prime Video, and it was supposed to be released on the Cartoon Network. So this fits the old school, not the new school Cartoon Network, not our old school Cartoon Network.
No.
But like you said, it fits the Chowder Adventure Time themes of this show. So if you like that stuff, you're gonna love this. If you like the Batman that we grew up with, Kevin Conroy, the dark brooding Dark Knight, you're gonna hate this. So that's the easiest way I could say it. If I got to give it a number, 2 out of 5.
Okay, all right. I was thinking 10 for some reason. All right. Okay. That's not bad. I give it a 2.5. Just because I love Batman. So by default, it's gonna get a better grade than I probably would give anything else at this point. Yeah. Guys, so we're gonna wrap it up there today. You guys can check out Merry Little Batman, available on Prime December 8th. Damian, where can people catch you at?
Catch me at Damon G Show across the board. That covers Twitter or X, Instagram, and the like. Or I host the Retro Cartoon Rewatch, where I take cartoons from the 70s to the 2000s. I watch them back in real time, and I let you know whether or not they suck, similar to this.
It's great, man. And you guys can catch me at Cam's Collection on Instagram, YouTube, as well as Twitter. That's gonna be it for us here at Big Gold Belt Media. For more content just like this and more, go ahead and check us out at biggoldbeltmedia.com. We'll catch you next time. Peace.